We're connecting. We'll wait till every platform is connected. And looks like we are getting connected. Here we are. We're up on every platform. Oh, you know what? Let me adjust my angle here. Bring you all in a little bit closer. There we go. We ain't shy. Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. Go ahead, say hello in the chat. We're gonna get started here in just a minute. Just gonna give another minute here to let another person or two get on. Hello, everybody. Go ahead, say hello in the chat. We're gonna get started here. So today we are talking about the For the People Act. So there's a couple interesting things going on here with this. So Senator Joe, so this has become a very partisan issue. So in the Senate right now, we have 49 out of 50 Democrat senators in favor of the For the People Act. All 50 Republicans are against it, and then you have Joe Manchin, Senator Joe Manchin is against it. I was really intrigued when I heard this. I wanted to see what Joe's reasoning was for being against it. And then when he said it was it just felt like this super partisan thing, man, that made me mad. Because here's the thing, there are reasons to be against the For the People Act. And I'm going to go over them, but Joe Manchin did not identify any of them. And we're gonna dive in a little bit here, because here's the thing: the For the People Act is an omnibus bill. It's a huge, massive bill. There's so much in it, and there's a lot that you probably have missed. So I want to go over what some of these things that are deep down in it, that are actually really, really important and very anti-democratic. Number one. The For the People Act quintuples the amount of money presidential campaigns will be required to raise to qualify for federal matching funds, from $5,000 in each of 20 states to $25,000 in $25,000 per state. So that's going to make it really difficult for that makes it more difficult for third parties to break through, and a super majority of Americans believe that we need third parties, that we need more parties than just the Democrats and the Republicans. But of course, since the Senate is made entirely of Democrats and Republicans, why would they be against this? Another thing that the For the People Act does is it abolishes the general election campaign block grants that parties can access by winning at least 5% of the vote in the previous presidential election. So the For the People Act would eliminate this provision that was created to give a fair shot to alternative parties that demonstrate significant public support. So this is really huge. Again, it's about, like, if you get a party that actually has some momentum, then in a presidential race, then they can actually get some public funding that the Democrats and Republicans already get. There's another thing it would do. It would replace the general election block grants, where each qualified candidate receives a set lump sum of public funding for campaign expenses, with matching funds through election day. So this is a huge step backwards for public campaign finance reform. And people all the time tell me, money in politics, money in politics, money in politics, and we're about to get to the worst of that too. But yeah, it's that was supposed to use the previously mentioned criteria. This is designed to squeeze out alternative parties and independent candidates. This is where things really get bad, though. So this has all been like very focused on like presidential and like third parties and stuff, but here's where it really gets bad. The For the People Act eliminates the limits on donations and expenditures candidates can receive and make. So that's, just allowing more money to come in. And then furthermore, this is just insane, is it inflates the amount of money national party committees can give to candidates from $5,000 to $100 million, which means that party bosses like Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, Chuck Schumer can flood elections with just tons of money, virtually unlimited power. It's just a further centralization of power into the existing Republican and Democrat parties. And that's where this really comes down to, right? It's like these provisions in the For the People Act are like, they're hidden, they're not talked about, and they are designed specifically to entrench duopoly rule. These don't hurt the Republicans and the Democrats at all. They help the Republicans and the Democrats a lot, but they really hurt any competition that they might face. Of course, like I said, none of them are talking about it because why would they? This is helping them. But these are really, really undemocratic provisions, and this is really important because that's kind of the thing that matters at the end of the day. We are really stuck in this do-nothing duopoly, obviously, as we can see right now with this whole thing with the trifecta, but nothing's happening, and there's no response. It's something like the top 15 consensus issues in America have not been touched by Congress effectively. Huge issues. And there's one more provision in here that's really gets to me. So the For the People Act, it promotes ranked choice voting, which is a deceptive, expensive, unsecure voting method that still trends toward duopoly rule, just like our current method, right? So I talk about this all the time. Our current method, choose one voting, always inevitably trends toward a two-party system. It is unavoidable. It's just math. It's the mechanics of the system. A replacement for that a lot of people have been recommending is what's being called ranked choice voting, which is really a misnomer. Instant runoff voting is a much better name for it, where you can rank candidates and then they do rounds of runoffs based on the top choices on everybody's ballots to eliminate candidates one by one and then going down the ballot. This is an incredibly deceptive method that was invented in 1870 by an architect with no mathematical background, which is already weird, who then performed zero analysis on it and it was literally just taking somebody else's method and applying it to single winner voting, which was just really stupid. Ranked choice voting does not eliminate the spoiler effect. It only mildly mitigates it, and it still trends toward a two-party system, just the same as our current choose one system. So that's incredibly problematic. I don't want to leave you hanging on a string. If you haven't heard me talk about this before, star voting and approval voting are fantastic methods that actually eliminate vote splitting. They're not subject to center squeeze. They actually deal with the spoiler effect. The star voting completely eliminates the spoiler effect. And it will actually allow us to get out of this two-party system that everybody hates. And that's the most important thing, and obviously the counters are going to be, well, what about like all the voting rights and like allowing people to like actually vote? That's really important. And I'm super into all of those provisions. Those are all hugely important. But it doesn't matter how many people vote if you're still stuck, if the whole system is rigged for duopoly rule. It literally doesn't matter. Because so long as we're locked in duopoly rule, we're not going to get any of the positive change that we need. It's not going to happen. And we've seen that firsthand. And so we need provisions. We need to change the mechanics and the systems that are going to allow us to get out of this duopoly. And I the RCV, that's a deal breaker for me, because we really need to be switching to methods that will actually get us out of the duopoly, like star voting, like approval voting, like range voting, like a quality Condorcet system. There are a lot of methods that can get us out of this duopoly. RCV is not one of them. So we really need to have provisions that allow us to get out of this duopoly. But of course, the duopoly is not going to vote for any of that. So yes, I am for all of the provisions within the For the People Act that promote voting rights and people's ability and protect the right to vote. I'm super into that. But that is measurably less important than the voting method and the mechanics that entrench duopoly reign. And we can prove that. I'm gonna actually grab a link. I'll throw it in the chat. It's a little bit technical. I'm not going to show it because it's just kind of a lot. But it just shows, like, we can model different types of voting reform and the amount of positive positive societal effect that they will have on society, and the amount of positive effect that they'll have on society. And the most important thing is the voting method. Like, we can model, we can measure this using Bayesian regret. It's mathematical, it's robust. It has like error bars and everything. But really, that is the most important thing. And I cannot support the For the People Act because it is clear that it is being, the whole thing is that this is one big deceptive act to further entrench duopoly rule, which I cannot be in support of. Hey TC, always great to have you. Your question, what do you know about deliberative democracy? So I know you've been sending me some links about that recently. I want to look up exactly the definition on that, so let me do that real quick here. I just want to read it again. It sounded a lot like the sortition-based citizens' assemblies. Deliberative democracy. I am, always trying to fight for practical things. It adopts elements of both consensus, decision-making, and majority rule. This is more closer to direct, it's seen as an amalgam of representative democracy and direct democracy. The actual relationship is usually open to dispute. Some practitioners and theorists use the term to encompass representative bodies whose members authentically and practically deliberate on legislation without unequal distributions of power, while others use the term exclusively to refer to decision-making directly by lay citizens, as in direct democracy. It looks a little bit vague on the definition. Like, it's not really like accurately describing a system here. So sorry, I've been like yelling into the mic. Hang on, let me calm down. Yeah, I mean, like, this absolutely looks like just part of how you would operate a citizens' assembly. You create consensus on the question, and then you vote on the question. Of course, I think the ideal model, at least at the national level, would be a combination of a sortition-based, opt-out sortition-based citizens' assembly that writes legislation that is then voted on nationally using liquid democracy, but that's not happening tomorrow. So that's why I fight for approval voting and star voting. All right, so we got Chips and Gravy again asking, I presume you live in the U.S. Yes, I do. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm running for Congress. If you had more political parties, you might get less change, as you need a 2/3 majority to change your constitution. You would have a more fragmented system. Parties would likely unify to prevent change. So this is the whole point that I'm getting into. I'm glad you asked. This is a really, really Good point. Let's talk about this. So, so we can't get 2/3 on anything anymore. Everything's split down the middle. It's all 50-50. We haven't had any. There's no language in the Constitution from the last half century. And this again comes down to the mechanics of the system. We are the mechanics of the system will encourage two-party systems or multi-party systems, or allow small parties to come up, or changing dynamics. Right now, the mechanics of our system, from first past the post all the way up through campaign finance, it mechanically entrenches duopoly rule. And we need to get out of that because it has put us at a standstill. We've been making no progress over the last 40 years, and now even our courts are becoming partisan, which is just God, I hate it. And so it's not about even changing the Constitution anymore. That's a pipe dream. That'd be amazing if we could actually get an amendment through. It's having a more fragmented system. If you don't have a single party that's in power, now every party is forced to compromise. They're forced to reach consensus to make anything happen, rather than towing the party line, trying to get that slim majority, and then shove things through on a 51-50 vote, which is not democratic. All right, the tyranny of the majority problem, and I mean, like, that's not how consensus works. Consensus, or the democracy, is not majority. Democracy is maximizing voter satisfaction, right? But only half of the electorate votes, and of the half that votes, of the half that votes, half of them don't identify with either of the major parties. All right, yes, the mechanics of the system work really well. The point was to avoid change unless needed. The founding fathers were skeptical of democracy. They pursued a libertarian republic. So I think you're giving the founding fathers way too much credit. And the founding fathers did not understand any of the mechanics of voting science. Voting science hardly existed back in the 1780s. Star voting did not exist. Like I said, even ranked choice voting did not exist. Approval voting was about the only other option that they had. It would have been fantastic if everything had been approval voting. And they kind of did it with the presidential elections. It was more like at-large elections. But skeptical of democracy, they pursued a libertarian republic. They tried to compromise. But the point was to avoid change unless needed. Well, I mean, we were making regular changes to the Constitution for the first 100 years, but over the last half century, there's been no change. The mechanics of the system work really poorly. We are stuck. We are frozen in the past. The changes that we need change. So you're saying the point was to avoid change unless needed. Change is needed, but it's not happening because the mechanics aren't allowing it to happen. The mechanics are promoting division. They are promoting political polarity. They are promoting all these like identity politics, the profit-driven media, which is a whole thing. Oh my God, I was getting into that last night, reading about the fairness doctrine. That's a ridiculous thing. The mechanics of the system are fixed to keep the people in power, and that is a whole lot like a dictatorship. That's what it comes down to. Keep people oppressed, keep people divided, they can't fight back. I would not call the modern United States a libertarian republic. No matter what you read in the Constitution, we are missing a lot of freedoms. A lot of people are missing the freedom, are missing economic freedom. They lack, my God, during COVID, we lacked the freedom to walk around the streets. But New Zealand got rid of the virus in June, and there have been tiny little spikes. I mean, it's just because they don't have a functional thing. We don't have right to life. We don't even have health care, right? We don't have right to clean water or clean air. It's ridiculous. The mechanics are working for the people who are in power, right? So if that's what you're saying, the mechanics are working for the people who are in power. The country is divided, so you cannot achieve change. Yes, the mechanics are working for the people in power. They're not working for the people, which is my whole point. This act is called the For the People Act, but it's not for the people. This act is for the duopoly rule. This act is for the people in power. It's not for the people. It's not of the people. It's not by the people. It's not for the people. And if these provisions that I've gone over were removed, if they added in provisions to support like star voting, you know what? I'd be for it. I'd absolutely be for it. But I cannot support it because it's very clearly not about the people. It's very clearly not for the people. It's for those in power. It's for the duopoly. So there it is. All right. I appreciate you coming on. Chips and Gravy again. Go ahead and give me a follow there on Twitch. I do this every week at 1 p.m. Central. On Thursdays, which is what, UTC -5 right now, but in the winter it'll be -6. Stupid. It's friggin' daylight saving time. But yeah, I'm not going to drag this out any longer. I've been going off enough. So appreciate you guys stopping by. And I'm going to, oops.